Hello, everyone. You probably noticed that I put a link to a YouTube video that I wanted you to watch. It's called Everything I Love, and the artist is Donnie Heitler. Um, Donnie Heitler is a pianist that I used to know when I went to University of Illinois to go to grad school there, and when I moved to town, I heard that there was a really great pianist in town, and everyone I talked to said, "Oh, he's the best pianist you'll ever play with," and comments like that. So I kept hearing about this guy, and I finally got a chance to meet him here, and I'll bring up a picture. Um, so this is Donnie Heitler, um, and when I met him, I learned pretty quickly that he was legally blind. So although he could see, like if he held a dollar bill up to his eye, the very corner, he might be able to see that it said a one or a five or something like that. But he was considered legally blind. He relied on public transportation and people driving him around because he couldn't drive. Uh, couldn't read, couldn't read a book, uh, let alone music. So, I played my first gig with him. I was playing drums back in those days and vibraphone, and I played my first gig with him, and I was just astounded. I was just completely astounded at how musical this guy was and how broad his repertoire was. He knew thousands of songs, and he could play songs in any key. Um, he knew mostly jazz and standards and that sort of thing, but he also knew some classical pieces as well. And after that first time I played with him, I knew that I needed to play music with this guy as much as I could when I lived in Champaign and beyond. And this was back in the mid 90s. So anyway, as you can see, he's got those very thick glasses, and so he couldn't read music. And so I asked him, as I got to know him, I said, "Well, how did you, you know?" He was a music major in college, among other things. He had other majors, like he had a master's degree in guidance counseling, and he had a music degree, studied at University of Illinois. Um, and then he went on to New York and played professionally in the New York area there for a while. And he recorded a couple albums with another well-known blind jazz pianist by the name of George Shearing. They were good friends, and as you know, I mean, there's been many many well-known blind piano players, such as Stevie Wonder is a great example. Ray Charles. Um, piano is a great instrument if you have that sort of disability because you can feel it. You have the touch of the instrument. Um, so mainly, Donnie played some other instruments as well, but piano was his. I've heard him play acoustic bass on occasion, but just a real musical guy, and basically his memory. Like I said, he knew thousands of tunes by memory. Could play them in any key. So just total master of music, really. I mean, and I asked him questions on some, long trips we would take across the state, and we actually played some gigs up in Canada together, and so I got to know him pretty well. And he recorded. We played lots of gigs together. He recorded on one of my albums, and there's some videos of us playing together on YouTube. Um, he sort of became a musical mentor for me, and I was always fascinated at how his mind worked. They say if you lose one of your senses, the other ones are stronger. And so I asked him. I said, "Well, how was being a music major? How was that in college?" And he said, "Well, um, I had to learn classical pieces." And I said, "Well, how did you do that?" He said, well, they had Braille music, so they had, Braille music that he would have to read on Braille and then play it on piano, and go back and forth between the Braille and the piano. So he'd probably have music up here and right above the piano there. And he said it was a very, very tedious and slow process. And basically he said what was easier is if I just got recordings of classical music and just learned all my music by ear. He said that way I would learn the piece by ear, and then I would check the Braille as just to make sure maybe he had trouble with a couple of notes or something, and so he would check the Braille. But basically he learned everything he knows about music by ear, which is why I'm bringing this up in this class. Is we're talking about ear training, and I explained a little bit of my background too. Just learning 80s pop tunes by ear, so that my friends and I could actually play a song from beginning to end, and things like that. So I developed my ear throughout my childhood and high school, and learned so much about music by just transcribing music by ear, learning how to play by ear. So this guy's on a whole nother level. I mean, he had to learn music by ear. That was the only way for him to do it. And as you'll see from the video, I mean, when he plays, his fingers are very close to the keys. He's not super flashy, but what he's playing is very sophisticated. He was very sophisticated harmonically with all the chords. This guy knew music so well, but he learned it in a different way. So playing gigs with him, I learned little tricks of playing jazz standards from playing with him, harmonic tricks and different chord substitutions, and I learned so much from him. And also just a very musical guy. Like, you could sit and listen to this guy play for hours and just never get tired of hearing it. He's playing very relaxing, sophisticated. Here's another photo from a gig played in Champaign, Urbana at the Iron Post, and you can see Dr. Marco's also in the picture there. I brought him in on some gigs to play with Donnie Heitler. But anyway, what I wanted to say was, he learned music by ear and relied on his ear to guide him through the whole musical process, and it certainly showed by the way he played. Never looking at the keys, not looking at any music. The music was just coming through him. Songs that he had learned, and he picked up songs quickly. Like, he learned songs very, very quickly. Like, if he didn't know a song, which was really unusual, he'd learn it very quickly by ear. Just such a great ear. We would sit and listen to other bands, and say, oh, that was a such and such chord, or that was a such and such chord, and we would go back and forth. He had an astounding memory. Like, he would remember my phone number from 10 years before. When you go from college to grad school and real life and stuff, your phone number is always changing, and he always remembered my phone number from years ago. And there was even one time he had a sense for direction. We were on our way to Peoria, and I missed a turn. I missed like an interstate. I missed the interstate turnoff around Bloomington Normal here to go to Peoria on 74. And so I'm driving north on 55, not even realizing it. And after a couple of minutes, he's like, we're going north. I'm like, how did you know that? I didn't even know that, and I'm the one driving. And so he had a sense for things. He had a sense for things that I couldn't explain. He couldn't explain. So music was a great fit for him. And I just wanted to bring this up in this class because there's other ways of learning music other than reading it on a page. And he was definitely, you know, demonstrated that. And so anyway, the video, uh, Everything I Love with Donnie Heitler, I have it on my YouTube channel, and I went ahead and gave you the link. You should watch it. He modulates through like three different keys when he plays this. He starts out in E flat, then he modulates to F eventually, then he modulates to G. Changing keys of a song was no big deal for him. Um, and I apologize for the recording quality. I brought in my video camera and said, "Hey, could I record a tune?" He said, "Sure." Um, and so I recorded this video and sort of put it together. There was some artwork on the wall that I tried to incorporate in the video, and it was at a place called the Great Impasta in Urbana, and unfortunately, Donnie Heitler is no longer with us. He passed away a couple of years ago, um, but he lived into his early 80s, and just someone I've learned probably the most from, because of his musical ability and just playing music with him. Like when I was playing vibes with him, I just felt like I could do no wrong, because he always had the right chord behind what I was doing. He always knew what to do. Made people comfortable. Just a great musician. So anyway, I hope you enjoy the video. This is Donnie Heitler, Everything I Love, and I hope you enjoy it.